Secretary General of NATO, said Russia is losing between 20 and 25,000 troops a month along the Ukraine front. Can you confirm that for us?
Well, what I can confirm that these numbers are even larger. These are the numbers of people they are losing just in even on a small parts of the front line. In reality, these numbers are even bigger, and the equally big amount of heavy military equipment they are losing through successful drone attacks we are implementing on the ground.
And what sort of casualty rate is Ukraine suffering, Madam Ambassador?
This is a totally uncomparable numbers because we are defending ourselves, we're in defense, and because we're developed a strong defense innovational base, we're able to defend ourselves through a new technology, through the drones. That's why the losses are absolutely uncomparable.
How far into Russia is Ukraine using their drones now? Is it a matter of kilometers or is it thousands of miles?
One of the very unprecedented elements of this war is that everything is happening online, so all of this information is public. We conduct the deep strike operations as part of a self-defense, mostly as a humanitarian mission, deterring Russians from the ability to attack our cities and to kill our people. These are the strikes which are targeted deeply within the territory of Russia, aiming at military objects, but also targeting the energy infrastructure, which is the fuel of war and the instrument of geopolitical influence. So we are pretty successful in that, and we keep on helping our people to survive through the winter by this means.
Now, President Zelensky sounded fairly optimistic in the last interview I read about a ceasefire coming into being. Has anything changed that is public in those discussions? Are we closer to a ceasefire this week than we were last week?
Well, just in 1 month, we will approach the 4th year since the beginning of the full-scale aggression, which started in 2014. And probably I can mark the year 2025 as the year in a period where we went to the closest possible line, just having finally being in a situation when it's the last mile literally to end the war. Combined efforts of President of Ukraine and President Trump and the teams has brought us to understanding that we're not only targeting to help Ukraine to survive, but also combining our efforts to end the war. And it's not yet there. It's far from having a very solid decision on the horizon. We do not see Russia showing any intention to commit to ending the war or ceasefire, but we are solid that we have all efforts targeted there, and we are pretty solid in understanding that we have the major players on board on that.
All right. Now, Madam Ambassador, I want to ask you to go back to the beginning of the second invasion. At that point, Ukraine lost a lot of its connectivity, and Starlink was provided by Mr. Musk to reconnect Starlink terminals in Ukraine, to reconnect Ukraine to the world. It was very vital. Starlink, though, I don't think is working in Iran because you need receivers, and you can't shoot the people who've got receivers. Is that why it worked in Ukraine and why it's not working in Iran?
Well, I'm definitely not an expert on this topic, but I know that one of the things you have to know about my country that since the beginning of the full-scale invasion and knowing that the tactics of war is cut Ukraine off from availability, from connectivity, from ability to connect between the cities, nothing in Ukraine stopped working. So if you want something to work in Ukraine, it works. And I also want to bring to your attention that today Parliament voted for a new defense minister of Ukraine, who is Mikhailo Fedorov, who was in contact with Elon Musk in the first months of war. And they are two guys who knows the best how to answer these questions.
Tell us a little bit, Madam Ambassador, about the new defense minister, the background.
Mikhailo joined the government of Ukraine just shortly after President Zelensky was elected as a minister. He's like one of the brightest representatives of the young generation of Ukrainians who were born not far from Ukraine's independence, and he is one of the most effective ministers. He was leading the digital efforts of Ukraine, but also he was behind the whole state policy on the drones and drones innovation. So he is probably the guy you can name when you think about Ukraine's incredible defense capability and ability to scale up even smallest innovation, which are being evolved in the front. So there are like a lot of hopes on what he can do and what he can scale up. And, you know, he had the overwhelming support, not only of Ukrainian parliament, but of Ukrainian people as well.
So to close, Madam Ambassador, the most surprising thing of the war for, I think, most people in America is that Ukraine is not only still standing, that it's fought to a draw. And the second most amazing thing is that Ukraine is an engine of technological innovation that other countries are now studying. Were you aware of this at the start of the second part of the war, 2014 and then 2022? Were you aware that Ukraine had this capacity to innovate?
Well, a part of all the other things that the whole world has learned, I personally learned two things about myself and the country. First, we are far more stronger than we think of ourselves, and we are far less vulnerable than Russians were trying to present to the whole world. So this knowledge has only solidified through the full-scale invasion, and that's why, it's not possible to win over Ukraine. It's possible to cause us even more suffering, to cut us from light and electricity, but with this solid understanding and a solid resilience, it's nearly impossible to put more pressure on us and keep us less resilient than we are.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.